welcome to another episode of Dr. Kamini Rao's Masterclass. Ask a doctor, what is the best part of your life? And his answer will be, give a life and be alive. Indeed, every human life is valued the same and worth saving. It is believed that some superheroes don't wear capes. They are called cardiologists. One such superhero is here with us today. Coming from a moderate family, he had a humble beginning and started his journey from Mysore Medical College. Today, he is the director of the Sri Jayadeva Institute of Cardiovascular Sciences and Research. His role is not just limited to a cardiologist. He is a writer, director, researcher, an academician, a social reformer, and all 360 degrees thrown into one. He is a well-known figure in the medical field because of his knowledge and expertise in administration and also in innovation. Not revealing any more details to you, my dear viewers, I present to you Padma Shri Dr. C.N. Manjunath. So, welcome to the show, Dr. C.N. Manjunath. It's always a pleasure to have you here, because you've always, never ceases to amaze us because of the multitude of programs that you have, and being a cardiologist, that would perhaps occupy about 10% of the work that you've done, but the rest of it really amazes me that you think of every aspect of the institution, about the food, about the cleanliness, about the administration, about the workers, their family welfares, the poor patients, the finance. How do you throw all this into one, to say the least?
Thank you, Dr. Kamini Rao, for interviewing me as a part of your masterclass program. And it's always a joy to be a doctor. So, of course, in modern days, doctors under tremendous stress. We are in an era of what is called idiot syndrome. Idiot syndrome is nothing but internet derived information obstructing treatment. So, you are under a tremendous stress, but see, doctor has to have multiple roles actually. One is, yes, you should be a good clinician, you should be highly skilled, and also a decision making is more important than actually performing a procedure. And another important thing is, there is a popular saying called, decisions are more important than the incisions. So, as a doctor, the most important thing is the treatment should not be more harmful than the disease, and without any indications we should not unnecessarily do a procedure. That is one. Another thing, also you have to, as an administrator, you have to build a very good working atmosphere, and workplace wellness is extremely important. If somebody is under the impression that only doctors can deliver everything, you are wrong. We need entire cooperation, wholehearted cooperation from nurses, even the technicians, or maybe even up to your ward helper, or maybe a gatekeeper, or even the security personnel. So, we need to create a good working atmosphere, workplace wellness, that will have a very good impact on the people who are coming, because the patients are coming to the hospital for 2-3 reasons. One is, they should have a faith on the hospital, and second is, there has to be a very good treatment available to us at an affordable cost to the cross section of the society. And third one is that reception should be there. See, if somebody is under the impression only operations or only high-tech treatment will satisfy the patient, no. I think a good doctor is one who treat actually the patient. An average doctor treats only a disease, because patient, in addition to a disease, has got lot of emotions, has lot of feelings. We have to address all those things. And another thing, there was always, it is also true in most of the places, in most of the hospital, public perception about the government hospital is absolutely different. They think government hospital is only for downtrodden people or for those who do not have any other options. So it was always lurking at the back of the mind. If I get an opportunity to head this Jayadeva Institute of Cardiovascular Sciences, I should show this nation that a government hospital can function like a 5-star corporate hospital. Today, in this long journey of more than 10 years as the director of this institute, I have fully succeeded in making this hospital as a corporate hospital in a government sector. Many people who are coming to this hospital ask me, who is the owner of this hospital? I have always kept on telling, owner is the government, I am the director. That means another important thing, you know me very well, and some VIPs come to the hospital. If they are looked after very well, that doesn't mean system is in place. A person, a common man, a poor patient who is coming to this hospital, who doesn't know anybody, if he gets an appropriate treatment, timely treatment, means system is in place. So this is where I have done lot of innovative things even in administration. There is decentralization mechanism. Even a group D worker or a low level worker employee can come to me and give suggestions. So even a small suggestion also, because there is a popular saying, micro changes bring macro transformation. So that always as an administrator you should kept your room open, kept your access open to a common man. Then unless you go around the hospital, you will not know what is happening in this hospital, what are the problems faced by the hospital. See, Xerox machine may not be working, or maybe a reception may not be responding. And in fact, whenever I go to the hospital, I never go to my chamber straight away. I always visit couple of toilets, because in my opinion, the toilets should be kept as clean as operation theatres. And many a time when I make surprise visit to various floors, nobody knows at what time I am going to a different place. And whenever a poor patient, however poor he is, if he comes and requests me, sir, you should see our patient, I always at the end of the day I make a list, what are all the patients I am supposed to see before leaving the hospital, whether he is rich, whether he is poor, whether he is VIP or a non-VIP, I just go and see, and always, because that sort of a service you have to give. So, and of course, my mantra is treatment first, payment next concept. Second is life is more important than the file, and third one is humanity is priority. So this is based on this. These are not on the paper, these are practically implemented and practiced.
That's really good, Dr. Manjunath. So if I can just jog your memory back to your childhood days, when being young, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
Yeah, I have 3 brothers and 5 sisters.
Oh, that's a large family. So
Yeah.
how many of them are doctors?
No, actually I am the only, among the 8 I am the only doctor. My father was a progressive farmer.
Very good.
He was a progressive farmer, and I did my schooling in my village only. That is
Kannada medium?
Kannada, up to 7th standard, it's all Kannada medium. In fact, English was Greek and Latin to me. So, but still at that point of time, how I learnt English or how I developed some sort of interest for English is cricket commentary actually.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, because at that time there was no television, it is all cricket commentary, and even at that time hockey was popular. So whether I was able to understand or not, I was always attracted to this commentary, and I developed some interest about English also at that point of time. And there were no newspapers actually, and somehow my father used to get one newspaper, Kannada newspaper, and the bus driver, who is the first bus which was coming to our village side, at that those were the postmen actually. They used to give these newspapers, and then I did my high school in Vidyavardhaka Sangha, Bangalore.
That's a lovely school. So the thing is, so when did this seed of being a medical person dawn on you, and who was your idol?
See, actually, I had seen as a small boy in my village, lot of sick people were taken by bullock cart to hospital. There were hardly few hospitals, and most of them were returning untreated, and many were dying. And once I was running a very high fever actually. Maybe I was 8 years or 9 years old. My father has virtually carried me on his shoulder, and he took me to Taluka hospital, that is called Chennarayapatna. There was no doctor. Then then he came to know that there is one doctor available at another 8-kilometer distance, and there is an hospital. So all through, in between he was resting. Half an hour, half a mile he was walking, and in between he was resting. Then ultimately we could able to reach the hospital. Somehow it was in my mind, I should become a doctor and serve these sufferings and serve these common people that was there. That is one of thing. And another thing, maybe 4th standard, there was a lesson, tomorrow I am going to be the doctor. Naale nane doctor.
Okay.
So those are small things. And my mother's brother was also a doctor.
Okay.
So all these things probably have played some role in choosing this particular profession for medical profession. But what has inspired me to become a cardiologist? Because in 1980s in Karnataka there were not many cardiology institutions. Cardiac hospitals were very few. And for any cardiac surgery, either they were going to Ellore, Chennai, Perambur or Mumbai. That was only handful of some affordable people. So it was always on the back of my mind, I think we should develop a state-of-art, world-class cardiac hospital for a common man. That was in this thing. And we were listening to some lectures in medical colleges, and those lectures, those who are coming from abroad, some are physicians, some are cardiologists. So it was always at the back of my mind, we should also become one day like that. So today I am so happy we are going and giving lectures abroad, and we are training cardiologists from other countries. See, at Jaideva we are training cardiologists from America, US, UK, France, Italy, even Vietnam, China, even Australia, all those things.
Which is excellent. But then coming from a middle class family and with such a large number of children, was the economic status good enough for you to be given medical education, or how was it that you were able to afford medical education at that point of time?
No, because see what was happening, of course, although we were studying in Kannada, I was always scoring very high marks. Even in 7th standard, I stood among the first 10 in that Taluk hospital and all. So my father was always insisting that I should study. Mother was also, because my mother is just 5th standard actually. My father, although he was on the 7th standard, was extremely brilliant actually. So he has got excellent knowledge about mathematics and all. And whenever weekend we used to go to the field, I used to carry a slate along with the chalk piece, and there itself we used to give some problems I used to solve and all. So that's how I was attracted. Then another thing is we joined government medical colleges.
Yes.
So the fees is very small.
At that point of time, yes.
So once actually my father, when I joined MBBS, he gave me around 10,000 rupees
That was a
for
lot
admission
of money.
at that time. So then I went and asked how much fees has to be paid. Then they said it's only 1,800 or 2,000 rupees. Then remaining 8,000, maybe I bought lot of books actually, lot of books, and of course I have to say this. So not only for me, for my other friends also I bought some books.
Very nice, very nice. That was really generous of you at that point of time. But having said that, buying books rather than going and getting clothes, etc., was very thoughtful of you, because that is the thing that is going to hold you in good stead, particularly in the first year, etc. Having then got into medicine and then reading, and so you left the Hassan district, that is Chennai Patna, and then you got into Mysore as a hostelite, and you studied in the hostel, and it was during that time that you went through the rigors of the MBBS, and at that time you decided then you will go into doing your MD, and perhaps MD was in Bangalore Medical College?
Yeah. See, actually,
Okay.
when I studied MBBS in Mysore Medical College. Actually, what happened is, as all of you know, as doctors, it's a very a huge like a fish out of water when you join MBBS from pre-university. It is a different, ocean or a different cake actually. So actually, I used to read a lot actually. But what happened in our anatomy examination, histology practicals during examination, what happens when I was trying to see some slide, it fell down actually in the examination. So then I requested for that second slide, then they did not agree. So unfortunately, I failed in anatomy at that time. Yeah, so that was distressing, but theory had scored good marks, everything. So that 6 months period was turbulent to me, but in before examination, all theory classes, all osteology classes, I was considered was one of the bright student of that batch. So there will be ups and downs. So in fact, you look at ECG actually. If it is a normal heart, normally if a living heart rather than a normal heart, if it is a living heart, there will be ups and downs, waves. So if it is a straight line, then person is dead. So that's the reason failure occasionally, despite your great efforts, there can be a failure. So in my opinion, failure is first attempt in learning. So so that should not, so afterwards there is no stopping me actually. After that initial setback, there was no, then I completed MBBS, then I did my MD, then I did my DM cardiology, and as a MD student, I was one of the most popular teacher among the undergraduates.
Yes, I did hear about that, Dr. Manjunath, that while you were in MD, you were teaching the MBBS students. While you were in final year, you were actually teaching the first year students. So that means teaching was in your blood. But more importantly, when you fail, this is what actually touches a chord. Many people, when they fail, they think that is final. So failure is not final. And therefore, just as you learn from your failures, you learn from successes as well. So those 6 months, which got a sort of a break for you, I'm sure you would have done a lot of introspection at that point of time, and that would have been actually the defining moment in your life to say, look, I have to be more careful, and I have to see that no stone is unturned, and I'll have to go with more gusto. What went through your mind? So there are so many viewers out there wanting to know the great Manjunath. How did he face that failure within yourself?
Yeah, see, even at that time, because at that time what happened, the passing percentage was also less, just 25%, 75% failed actually, that was one. And those who passed, I was teaching some of them actually.
Which is ironic, isn't it?
Ironic. So that's fine, but there was some disturbance, and because it was just a sort of a stress for about a couple of months. Then of course the next examination, it got clear. And most important, you have to acquire a good knowledge. See, degree is one part. See, all people who have got degrees need not be knowledgeable. So you have to take both your qualification and knowledge together. So yes, I have to tell this. I was taking bedside clinics for MBBS students as an MD student. So sometimes I have faced embarrassment. So, in a big hall there were about I used to take clinics. In one corner I used to take clinics for undergraduates, in the other corner one professor used to take. So, for my clinic there were about 80 students, and for the other professors clinic there used to be 10. It was an embarrassing, because I have to take MD examination, they might think bad about me and all. Then that professor, of course he was quite sportive, used to tell, no, I am busy, you 10 also join Manjunath's clinic and all.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah, very diplomatic. But I have really enjoyed teaching and training. Even today as a director, despite my busy schedule, still I spare about 40 to 50 minutes for teaching. See, as you all know, in super specialty, teaching is not always in the classroom. It is in the wards or in the cardiac cath lab. And whenever a student walks into my chamber with some case sheet and wants some opinion, I ask a couple of questions. But one thing, whenever I ask questions, if a student doesn't answer, I always tell the answer.
Yes.
That's
very important, because otherwise they go with that doubt back again and they will not read up.
Correct.
And then that doubt remains for life.
Correct.
And that's another thing that I've seen is that when you start teaching, you learn it yourself a second time and you learn it a third time. So the entire knowledge keeps getting cemented in you, and selfishly you are learning it so much more that even though you're teaching the student, it is benefiting us.
Correct.
And I felt that that is the elixir that actually keeps us going in the medical field or in any field. Teaching is always very important.
It's a popular saying, actually you should never stop learning, because life never stops teaching.
Yes.
So we should always continue. You see, every day, as a teacher you have to be a student also. Then only, and another important thing, you should always listen to what others says. Because God has given 2 ears and 1 mouth, basically you should listen more and talk less. And it's not just for student, even for the patients also. See, nowadays in this modern times of our medical profession, everybody is busy and they are occupied with multiple assignments and all. So, because allowing patients to express their symptoms, they will also get satisfied. Here is a doctor actually who listened to all my problems, then they will get a lot of faith on you. That itself will have a healing effect on them. And many a time, by allowing the patient to express their problems and symptoms, they are giving you the diagnosis. So best is to wait for some time, and you have to give some time to the patients.
I've also felt that many a time the disease itself is 50% psychological and 50% physical. The 50% psychological, many of the doctors do not address at all, because they would have gone from doctor to doctor just waiting to be heard, because they have not been heard at home, they have not been heard at any other place, and even before the person has even started talking, the doctor is out with the prescription pad and has written at least about 5 or 6 medicines on it and said, take it and go. So it's the same saga that goes on from one doctor to another, and what the patient is trying to say is that she's got a headache and the doctor is writing a prescription for peptic ulcer. So this is the difference that I have found in most of this. So this difference can only be done, like what you say, listen to the patient first. So one is the patient feels that there is somebody listening to their problem.
Yeah, it has to be, you have to practice 3 T's: talk, touch and treat. You should talk to patients and you should touch patients. This is also important. See, nowadays what happens, as you are telling, somebody comes with headache all of a sudden without even examining, without listening to them, you write for a CT scan, or you write for an MRI, or somebody comes with chest pain, you write for an ECG and some blood investigation. No, physically you have to touch. That is the touch has got lot of healing effect, and also patient believes here is a doctor who is well connected, is going to treat me well. That sort of confidence building is very, very important, because medicine alone, and you should not treat always investigations. as a whole you should treat patient, and decision making is more important. See, suppose after examining the patient, if you say yes, you don't have a disease,
That itself is a diagnosis.
that itself is a greatest diagnosis and a great health promotion and a reassurance. That is very, very important. Another thing is, yes, today we have plethora of investigations. So, no point in, and you should always understand the financial background of the patient before evolving a strategy of treatment. So, because today you can give a excellent treatment for a optimal cost also, you can give the same treatment for a very high cost also. I will just give an example. See, we are we are all traveling in an aircraft. There is an executive class, there is also economy class, there is a first class. If there is an accident, air crash, everybody will die. So, you should always understand the background of the financial background of the patient, and within that financial background you evaluate treatment strategy, how best you can treat him at a affordable cost. And suppose if you are fully convinced this patient is not going to survive despite doing all sorts of procedures, despite giving all high tech treatment, if you are convinced he is not going to survive, talk to patient's attenders. Here is a patient, he is not going to survive even if you spend 30 lakhs, 50 lakhs. Otherwise what happens, if a poor patient, if already they have spent so much, and at the end of 1 month on ventilator, if they die, they have to pay somewhere around 30-40 lakhs. Not only the one who is dead, others who are alive are also financially dead. So, this sort of thing is very, very important, and there should not be any rat race. And as a doctor, you should have a very good professional culture. What is this professional culture? Suppose patient might have seen 8-10 doctors before coming to you. When he comes to you, you do your job to the best of your ability. Don't criticize your colleagues who have earlier treated, and that is not correct also. And suppose if he has given a good treatment, you acknowledge their prescription, acknowledge their decision, and be open for a second opinion. And most important is you have to evaluate patients properly. You may be busy, but still you have to evaluate properly. Another important thing, suppose if the targets are not good, suppose somebody has to undergo a bypass surgery. See, I will just give an example. See, about 1 year back I had gone to Mysore for a public function. One person, all of a sudden, I was on the stage, he just barged onto the stage with a garland, he wanted to garland me. Then I said, okay, allow him. Then I asked, who are you? And then he was telling me, sir, 1996, somebody has advised me, some other hospital advised me bypass surgery in 1996. Now it is 2019 at that time. You only said your arteries are so small, with bypass surgery you may not survive for a longer time. So, based on that advice, even today I am hale and healthy. So, those decision making are important.
But another thing, don't you find that the very noble thought of saying you must have a public sector hospital, an institute like Jayadeva, which actually started with only about 4 crores in the bank and 6 crores loan, and today it has over 100 crores, and of course you've got also a kind of a poor fund for the patients, and a hospital which in no way less than the best corporate hospitals, but the simple mantra is treatment first, payment next, which I am sure that it would have been an uphill task for you to do, particularly the bureaucratic tape, and of course to try and cater to or pander to the politicians and to be able to get everything sorted out, and red tapeism for getting all the equipments in. How did you actually get so much of patience? Did you practice meditation, yoga and all these things? Because it's very, very difficult and frustrating for a person who's been brilliant like you. You would like to always, do it yesterday, not tomorrow. And now you have built this kind of an institute. It's almost like, epoch making. to say that here is an institution, not Karnataka, but the whole country should be proud of, and even Barack Obama has actually even complimented you on the kind of institute you've built.
See,
So-
I took, of course, I joined this institute in 1989 as a lecturer. Then I became professor in 96. In 2006, I took over as a director. So when I took over as a director of Jayadeva Institute of Cardiovascular Sciences, yes, it has its own problems. And what happened out of, at that point of time, as you said, there was 4 crore deposits in the bank account of the institution and 6 crores loan, and hardly few patients. Out of 7 floors, 4 floors were kept locked, lifts were not working even. So at that point of time, I took over as a director. A lot of people were advising me, so you are a good cardiologist, your name will get spoiled because institution is not doing well. So then I told them, give me at least 1 year time. I will definitely bring a change. I will definitely, with the same people, let me change their mindset, let me bring a change, because I wanted to be a game changer actually.